I drove 6 hours through holiday traffic to my family home, trunk filled with gifts I'd spent weeks selecting. As I pulled into the driveway, I found my parents loading suitcases and ski equipment into their SUV. "Oh, you're earlier than we expected," my mom said with a tight smile, not quite meeting my eyes. My siblings were already in the back seat, faces glued to their phones. Something was off. I stepped out of my car, confused. "Are we going somewhere?" My dad cleared his throat, glancing at my mom before responding. "Well, honey, we're heading to Aspen for New Year's. Last-minute deal we couldn't pass up." My stomach dropped. "But you begged me to come home. I took time off work." My mom's face shifted to that familiar placating expression I knew all too well. "Oh, we thought you wouldn't mind staying here. All this Christmas chaos needs cleaning up. You've always been so organized," she said with that fake brightness in her voice, tossing another suitcase into the SUV. "Besides, someone needs to watch the house." I stood there, keys still in hand, luggage untouched in my trunk, as the reality sank in. 3 years of declining their holiday invitations, 3 years of peaceful, drama-free Christmases with friends, and the one time I gave in to their guilt trips. "We miss you so much. This year will be special. We have so many family activities planned." They were leaving me behind to be their maid. My sister finally looked up from her phone, smirking. "Don't look so shocked, Kate. At least you'll have some peace and quiet." She turned to my mother. "Did you leave her the list?" Mom's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, yes. There's a list of things that need doing on the fridge. Just small things, nothing major." I nodded, feeling numb. "Sure. Nothing major. Just cleaning up after the family that invited me home for the holidays." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I smiled and walked to their car, helping load the last few bags. "Have a great time," I said, voice steady. When the SUV disappeared around the corner, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd been considering calling for months. My hands weren't shaking anymore. For the first time in years, I knew exactly what I needed to do. They wanted me to clean house? I'd clean house, all right. Just not the way they were expecting. This wasn't the first time I'd been the family workhorse. Growing up, I was the eldest of three, which apparently translated to third parent in my family's dictionary. While my siblings joined sports teams and attended sleepovers, I was cooking dinner, helping with homework, and making sure the house didn't collapse into chaos. "Kate's so responsible," my parents would brag to friends, never acknowledging they'd forced that responsibility on a child. I remember my high school graduation clearly, or rather the empty seats where my parents should have been. My brother's regional baseball tournament was the same day, and they never even considered splitting up so one could attend my ceremony. You understand, right, Kate? This is such a big opportunity for him. They didn't even ask if I understood. They told me I did. Then there was college. I'd saved for years, working part-time jobs since I was 16, building what I thought was my tuition fund. 2 weeks before enrollment, my parents borrowed half of it to buy my sister a car for her sweet 16. "She needs it for her social development," my mom explained, as if my education was less important than my sister's popularity. I ended up working 30 hours a week while taking a full course load, sleeping 4 hours a night, and graduating with honors despite it all. Every time I tried to create distance, moving cities, limiting visits, establishing boundaries, the guilt trips would start. My mom's tearful calls. "I guess we're just not important to you anymore." My dad's disappointed sighs. "Family should come first, Catherine." My siblings' accusations. "You think you're too good for us now?" For years, I believed them. I believed I was selfish for wanting my own life, for expecting reciprocity, for hoping they might show up for me the way I always showed up for them. I kept coming back, kept helping, kept hoping that someday they'd see me, really see me, and value what I gave them. But they never did. They just took and took and took, treating me like the family Swiss Army knife, useful for whatever problem needed solving, but easily folded away and forgotten afterward. Last Christmas was my breaking point. I'd decided to spend it with friends instead, and the family meltdown was nuclear. Weeks of texts, calls, voicemails accusing me of abandoning them during family time. When I pointed out they'd spent the previous Christmas watching movies while I cooked, cleaned, and wrapped all the gifts alone, my mother actually said, "But you're good at those things. We're not." So when they started the campaign for me to come home this year, I should have known better. But part of me still hoped. Stupid, really. After watching their car disappear, I dragged my suitcase inside, my hollow victory of at least having a quiet house to myself quickly evaporating. The place was a disaster. Dishes piled in the sink, wrapping paper scraps everywhere, the Christmas tree dropping needles onto stained carpet. With a sigh, I headed to the kitchen for cleaning supplies, only to find a 2-page list on the refrigerator. Kate's holiday tasks, written in my mother's flowing script, detailed everything from deep clean guest bathroom to organized garage storage boxes. I was searching under the sink for gloves when my eyes caught something on my dad's open laptop on the kitchen counter. A group chat labeled Family Holiday. Curious, I clicked. My blood went cold. There it was. Weeks of messages planning their ski trip, with no mention of me until my mom wrote, Kate finally agreed to come home. Perfect timing. We can have the house completely sorted before we get back. My brother had responded, LOL, she's so gullible. Always falls for the we miss you line. My sister, she'll probably color code the garage while we're gone. My dad, let's not tell her about Aspen until she arrives. Otherwise, she might bail. They had planned this all along. They had manipulated me into taking time off work, driving 6 hours, and spending money on gifts for them. Also, I could be their unpaid housekeeper while they enjoyed a luxury vacation they'd hidden from me. My phone rang, startling me. My mother's face flashed on the screen. I answered, voice carefully neutral. Kate, honey, just checking if you found the list. There's also some laundry in the basement that needs folding. Why didn't you tell me about Aspen before I drove all the way here? I asked quietly. A pause. Oh, it was so last minute, we barely knew ourselves. Lieutenant, the chat showed them booking it 3 weeks ago. There wouldn't have been room in the car for you anyway, she continued, and you've never been interested in skiing. Another lie. I'd been asking to go skiing with them since I was 12. Besides, you're always saying you need quiet time. Now you have the whole house to yourself. Most people would see that as a gift. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. I excused myself and opened the door to find my Aunt Claire, suitcase in hand. Kate, what are you doing here? I thought everyone was heading to Aspen this morning. I'm supposed to meet them tomorrow. My flight was delayed, so I'm crashing here tonight before driving up. Her eyes widened as she took in my expression. They didn't tell you about the trip, did they? They told me, I said flatly. When I arrived today. Claire's face fell. Oh, Kate, they've been planning this for months. Your mom's been sending me photos of the resort since before Thanksgiving. Something broke inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, but definitively. Like ice cracking on a frozen lake. For 28 years, I'd been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who fixed everything. And this was my reward. I stood in the middle of the living room, vacuum cleaner in hand, staring at the mess around me. Christmas lights blinked mockingly in my peripheral vision. Claire had left for her hotel after an awkward cup of tea, clearly uncomfortable with being caught in the middle of family drama. I'd assured her it wasn't her fault. And it wasn't. This was entirely on my parents and siblings. Suddenly, I felt ridiculous. Why was I even holding this vacuum? Why was I mentally calculating how long it would take to finish their list? Why was I, yet again, preparing to clean up their mess while they enjoyed themselves? I set down the vacuum and sat on the couch, the reality washing over me. Nothing would ever change because I kept playing my assigned role. For nearly 3 decades, I'd been the family fixer, the responsible one, the dependable doormat. They didn't value me. They used me. And they would continue using me as long as I allowed it. A strange calm settled over me. For the first time, I wasn't hurt or angry. I felt clear-headed, like I was seeing my family and myself with absolute clarity. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. Methodically, I began photographing the state of the house. The dirty dishes, the overflowing trash, the stains on the furniture. Then I found the list my mother had left and photographed that too. Next, I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet, listing every task they'd asked me to do along with the market rate for each service. Housekeeping, organization, home maintenance. The total came to just over $1,200 for what they expected me to do for free over the next 3 days. Interesting. I sat back, a plan forming in my mind. If they wanted a housekeeper, they could pay for one. If they wanted a daughter, they needed to treat me like one. I wasn't going to yell, cry, or beg for their consideration anymore. I was going to show them exactly what life would look like when Kate the Reliable was no longer available. This ends now, I said to the empty house, my voice stronger than it had been in years. I'm not your servant. I'm not your backup plan. And starting today, I'm going to make sure you understand that. Updated. I've been sitting here answering comments all day, and I'm blown away by how many of you have gone through similar experiences with your families. It's both comforting and heartbreaking to know I'm not alone. Some of you asked if I confronted my family immediately after finding the chat. I didn't. When you've been the family peacekeeper for so long, your first instinct isn't to explode, it's to strategize. And believe me, I had quite a strategy in mind. Have you ever reached that breaking point where you just knew, deep in your bones, that you were done being taken advantage of? My plan began with a simple phone call to Luxury Maids, the most expensive cleaning service in town. I need a full house deep clean. I explained to the receptionist. It's a last-minute emergency. Price is no object. I gave them my parents' address and credit card information. I was still an authorized user on their emergency card. This certainly felt like an emergency to me. Next, I called a locksmith. I need all the exterior locks changed today. It's urgent. When he arrived an hour later, I handed him my own credit card. This wasn't about revenge. This was about boundaries. I needed physical, tangible proof that things were different now. While waiting for the cleaning crew, I went through the house collecting everything that was truly mine. Childhood journals my mother had insisted on keeping, family photos I wanted copies of, the quilt my grandmother had specifically made for me before she died. I packed these treasures carefully in my car. Then I sat down to write 3 letters. The first was to my parents, detailing every instance I could remember where they'd taken advantage of me, from childhood through to this latest holiday manipulation. I listed the approximate monetary value of the work I'd done for them over the years, the emotional cost of their constant dismissal, and the specific behaviors that would need to change if they wanted any relationship with me moving forward. I ended with a clear statement. I am no longer available for exploitation. Any future interaction will be on my terms, with mutual respect, or it won't happen at all. The second letter was to my siblings, less detailed but equally firm. I reminded them of times I'd supported them, driving my sister to dance rehearsals for years, helping my brother with college applications he'd procrastinated on, and how that support had never been reciprocated. I told them I loved them, but would no longer enable their entitled behavior. The third letter was to my extended family, my aunts, uncles, cousins, explaining why I would be absent from family gatherings for the foreseeable future. I included screenshots of the family chat and photos of the state they'd left the house in, along with the to-do list they'd left for me. I wasn't trying to create drama. I was ensuring my side of the story was heard before my parents could spin their narrative. As the cleaning crew arrived and began transforming the house, I set up my laptop and accessed the family's shared cloud storage. I systematically downloaded every photo that included me, every important document I might need, and then removed my access information. I did the same with the family's shared subscription services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, all of which I'd been paying for despite rarely using them. Around 4 p.m., my phone started buzzing with texts from my mother. The resort Wi-Fi is terrible. Can you check if our Netflix is working? We're trying to stream a movie. I didn't respond. An hour later. Kate? Are you there? The Netflix isn't working. Still, I said nothing. By evening, the house was immaculate. The cleaning crew had worked miracles, and I'd paid them a generous tip from my own money. I'd also ordered grocery delivery, stocking the fridge with enough food for my family's return. I wasn't petty enough to leave them without essentials. I placed my 3 letters on the kitchen counter alongside a receipt for the cleaning service charged to their credit card and an invoice for every holiday I'd spent working rather than celebrating, totaling over $25,000 in unpaid labor. I didn't expect them to pay it, but I wanted them to see the value of what they'd taken for granted. Just before leaving, I changed the Wi-Fi password and removed the written password from the router. Small, yes, but satisfying. As I was loading the last of my boxes into my car, my phone rang. My father this time. Catherine, what the hell is going on with the accounts? Your mother can't access anything. I took a deep breath. I've removed myself from all family accounts. You'll need to set up your own subscriptions going forward. What? Why would you do that? His voice rose. We're in the middle of a movie. I'm sorry that's inconvenient for you, I said calmly, just like it was inconvenient for me to drive 6 hours to an empty house and a chore list. Silence then. Is this about the Aspen trip? You're overreacting. We thought you'd appreciate some alone time. No, you didn't. I saw the family chat. I know this was planned weeks ago, specifically to use me as free labor. More silence. Kate, I don't know what you think you saw, but I have screenshots, I interrupted. I've sent them to Aunt Claire, Uncle Rob, Grandma, everyone. No more gaslighting, Dad. I'm done. His tone changed instantly, anger replacing confusion. You had no right to go through private conversations. This is exactly the kind of dramatic, entitled behavior that... I hung up. Within minutes, my phone was flooded with messages. My mother alternating between rage and tearful manipulation, my siblings calling me selfish and crazy, even some extended family members telling me I was tearing the family apart during the holidays. I turned off my phone and drove to the hotel I'd booked that morning. I needed space, time to process, and most importantly, distance from the tsunami of guilt and manipulation I knew was coming. For the first time in my life, I was putting myself first, and it felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to find 37 missed calls and over 50 texts. My mother had progressed from anger to hysteria. "We came home early and someone's broken into the house. The locks don't work. Call us immediately." I replied with a single text. No one broke in. I changed the locks for my peace of mind. The new keys are with Claire. The house has been professionally cleaned and there's food in the fridge. This is the last communication you'll receive from me until you've read my letter and are ready to have a real conversation about boundaries and respect. Then I blocked their numbers. Not permanently, but for the 2 weeks I'd be staying at my friend Melissa's apartment in the city. I needed time to recover, to reflect, and to prepare for whatever came next. What came next was a war of narratives. My parents told anyone who would listen that I'd had some kind of psychological break, that I was ungrateful and cruel, that I'd abandoned them during the holidays over a simple misunderstanding. But thanks to my third letter and the evidence I'd attached, many family members knew the truth. Aunt Claire called me when I was ready to accept calls again. "I had no idea things were this bad," she said softly. "All these years, I thought you were just naturally helpful. I never realized they were using you like this." Other relatives reached out too. Some supportive, some critical, some just confused. My cousin Mark told me my parents had called him asking for money because Kate has stolen our financial information and locked us out of everything. The reality? I'd simply removed myself from their accounts, leaving everything else untouched. 3 weeks after New Year's, my mother showed up at my apartment. I'm still not sure how she found my address. When I opened the door, she burst into tears. Not the manipulative sobs I was used to, but genuine body-shaking cries that caught me off guard. "Your father and I read your letter," she said when she could finally speak. I never realized." I invited her in but kept my distance, both physically and emotionally. We talked for hours. Really talked. Perhaps for the first time in our lives. She denied some accusations, admitted to others, and seemed genuinely shocked by how her behavior had affected me. "We always thought you were just like me," she said. "I was the responsible one in my family too. It was just expected." "And did you like that role?" I asked quietly. She looked startled, then thoughtful. "No," she finally admitted. "I hated it. I swore I'd never do that to my children, but you did it to me," I finished. She nodded, eyes lowering. "I did. We did." It wasn't a perfect conversation. There were defensive moments, attempts to minimize, old patterns trying to reassert themselves. But it was a start. My father and siblings were less receptive. Dad sent a terse email acknowledging he'd made some mistakes, but insisting I had grossly overreacted. My sister blocked me on social media. My brother sent a single text. "Hope you're enjoying blowing up the family, drama queen." But something had shifted. The spell was broken. For the first time, I wasn't scrambling to fix things, to smooth things over, to be the bigger person. I was simply standing in my truth and letting them decide how to respond. A week later, my mother called again. "We'd like to have a family meeting," she said, "to talk about moving forward. Your father's agreed to try family therapy." I hesitated, years of disappointment making me wary. "I'm not ready for that," I said honestly. "I need more time, and I need to see real change, not just words." "What kind of change?" she asked. "For starters, acknowledgement. From everyone of how I've been treated. A sincere apology. And concrete changes to family dynamics, not just promises." She was silent for a moment. "I understand," she finally said. "Take whatever time you need. We'll be here when you're ready." I wasn't sure if I believed her, but it didn't matter. For the first time in my life, my healing wasn't dependent on their response. I would move forward either way. 2 years ago, a New Year's family ambush left me feeling like I was losing everything. Now, in my minimalist downtown apartment, I see how much I've gained. Sometimes, the most valuable gift you can give yourself is the courage to stop giving to those who only take. It's not easy, and it's certainly not pretty, but it's necessary. 2 years ago, I thought I was losing my family. In reality, I was finding myself. Family therapy revealed a power imbalance. I'd been carrying the emotional weight too long. Individual sessions helped me unpack decades of manipulation and build boundaries. Family progress is uneven. My mother's effort has fostered cautious respect, while my father remains distant and my brother cut contact, feeling betrayed. My sister, surprisingly, is rebuilding with me, seeing my perspective. Beyond family, Aunt Claire and cousins became allies, sharing similar experiences. I started a consulting business, using skills once exploited, now valued by paying clients. My chosen family of friends models healthy, reciprocal relationships, sharing holidays and respecting boundaries. I haven't returned to my parents' house, meeting only on neutral ground. A vital boundary. Their Aspen trip cost them our relationship. My life's price now is respect. This Christmas, I'll be with friends and Aunt Claire, then solo in Quebec City. A gift to myself. I might visit my parents, but only on my terms, strong enough to avoid old patterns. Every boundary laid a brick in my new life, where I'm valued for me, not my service. My chosen family taught me love doesn't demand self-erasure, boundaries aren't selfish, and reciprocity builds true connection. Updated. First of all, thank you all for the overwhelming support on this post. Reading through your comments has been incredibly validating. Someone asked if I missed the simplicity of my old role, knowing exactly what was expected of me in the family. Honestly, sometimes. It was a clearly defined role, even if it was destroying me. Building this new life with conscious boundaries requires constant vigilance and decision-making, but the freedom and self-respect I've gained are worth every uncomfortable conversation, every guilty moment, every difficult choice. My question for all of you: have you ever had to completely redefine your role in your family, or would you rather keep the peace even at your own expense?